So we're going to talk about emerging technology, but what we're going to try and do is demystify some of these buzzwords that you keep hearing about. And I'll try and explain to you what's real and what's hype and how some of them can actually transform the way that you work, live, and play. But I thought we'd start out by doing a quick review of 2025. So what's happened so far this year? Because I'm not sure if you've seen the news, but it's been a pretty weird year. Well, let's start out. It kind of reminds me of this old movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We started out with some really good news. We found out that international travel is up to pre-pandemic levels. We know that the retail market value is starting to grow again, and this is 2023 numbers, so expect that to grow further. For Asia Pacific, it's looking a little bit consistent, but that means because we're coming back later, which means there's a big growth opportunity. This is good. This is not. There's been a little bit of problems and confusion now with tariffs. And is that going to lead to trade wars? And is it going to cause a recession? And it's making something really ugly, and that's an increase in uncertainty. Now, this is a chart that's been around for about 25 years, and they track trade and economic policy uncertainty. And what you can see here is even during the pandemic is nothing compared to what we have right now. Now, this is trade and economic policy, but in reality, this is filtering down to us as consumers, because it's making us wonder, well, should I buy that new smartphone or computer? But also, where should I buy it now? Where am I going to get charged too much, or where can I get a better deal? But great news, everybody. Technology is going to fix everything. But actually it can't, but it really can help you. And that's what I want to get across today. If it's used effectively, it can help you address a lot of these challenges. But before I go too much farther, I have to talk about my personal dilemma I have with emerging technology. I've been in this industry for a very long time, as the gray hairs will show, but I have a love-hate relationship with our industry. Because this industry we're in, we have the technology to transform the way they work, live, and play. But the challenge is, what we tend to do with every new technology, we overhype, oversimplify, and underdeliver it. And here's a perfect example. What we do is we create technology for technology's sake. Now, this company, thankfully, no longer exists, but I love using it because someone thought we should connect a fork. And you can use Bluetooth to connect it to your phone, and you can track how fast you eat and look at that on an app. That's not a solution. If you want me to not eat so fast, and I am, give me an electric shock so I can't put more food in my mouth. But as an industry, we do this again and again. We just deploy things, whether it makes sense or not. We don't think about the value it actually gives to people. We have great technology available today. Sometimes we just need more innovation, not necessarily more technology. So what does it take to innovate? And this is what I've been focusing on for most of the last 25 years. And I've looked at it from all different sides of the industry. My career actually started out in banking. I was an investment banker. And then I went into consulting around the time of the .com. Anybody remember that one? And I had to advise banks and law firms how to use the internet. But I went from consulting, I've been in telecoms. I was a technology industry analyst covering Asia Pacific for a number of years. And then I started working with cities and how do you drive innovations in cities so I understand the public sector. And then because of that, I did some work I was a visiting scholar at Stanford on their Smart Cities Research Center. And then I was talking to all these people about innovation and wanted more, so I started a podcast so I could keep finding out how people look at innovation. And that got me doing a lot with people in venture capital. And I still couldn't figure out the right answer, like what was really missing and why are we not innovating more? So I did a stint at a design firm. I joined a firm that's all architects and creatives, which sounds kind of strange, but there was a method to the madness because it's the firm that created the concept of the Apple Store. And I became friends with the guy who Steve Jobs approached nearly 30 years ago and said, I want to do a retail store concept for Apple. And I was fascinated because how do you create that from scratch when it didn't exist in the world? Like, what did you go through? And he's an architect by training, and we used to talk a lot about it. You study the environment, so the structure of the building, but it's how do you leverage the technology and the products in it? But the key thing is, what do you do with the people? How do you drive the behaviors that give you the experience, the human outcomes when you're there? How do you do the messaging? Think about when you go to an Apple store, you know how you're greeted when you go there. When you go to the Genius Bar, how you're treated. He designed all that. And I thought it was fascinating because that creates this irrational loyalty. What in this day and age makes people queue in front of an Apple store to be the first one to buy it in person when you can click a button and buy it online? And this is what has been fascinating. And that's when it came to me. I'm like, well, what if we took that methodology and started applying it to technology? And Tim agreed and he said, well, why don't you join us for a while and see what happens? So we did. We looked at it for a while. And really comes down to there's too much tech for tech's sake. As an industry, we forgot that technology exists to deliver human outcomes. And now some of you are probably scratching your head like, well, what do you mean by a human outcome? Well, travel can deliver human outcomes. I'm pretty sure most of you at some point of your life would have been stuck in a situation like this, where you're at the airport, you're running late, you're in huge queues, you're getting frustrated. How does that make you feel? Well, for me, when I'm in situations like this, I feel devalued. I've just spent a bunch of money and this is the way I'm being treated. I'm nervous because I think I'm going to miss my flight. I'm angry, frustrated. Even if I do have enough time, I'm probably not going to relax and go eat or go shop. I'm probably just going to go have a drink to calm my nerves and get on the flight. But travel can also deliver very positive human outcomes. And I've had the privilege of living in Singapore for 16 years. I just recently relocated back to Europe. I can't tell you how much I miss Changi. For those 15, 16 years, I would be traveling up to 40 weeks a year from my home. I can take a taxi, check in, drop my bag, get through passport control in 30 minutes, door to door right there. It was so consistent that it made me relax and it made me feel valued, informed, and engaged. So these are the types of human outcomes you want to drive. But why do you want to drive that? Because those drive behaviors and those behaviors are spend. So when I feel like that, I spend. And they wanted me to give a few examples of where I like to spend. Narita Airport. I've been going in and out of Terminal 1 for the last 20 years. I love going early just to have a meal at the famous Signage sushi store in there. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm happy to go early to the airport just to have a final meal. But of course, like I said, I was in Singapore for quite a while and I would shop there. Because I was going so much, I knew all the stores. Whenever I needed something, I would plan ahead. Because I know I'm going to have a good experience, it's consistent, I can get in there in the right amount of time, I never had to worry about it. It was never, can I buy it if I have time? I know I'll have time. And the other one that I really love is Doha's airport because I relax. And when I relax, I spend, I shop, and I eat. But I really shouldn't relax there. And I find this fascinating. If I'm in Doha, I've most likely done a long haul flight and I'm going to wait 2 to 5 hours and have another one. I should be frustrated, tired, but I always relax. And it's because how they treat you when you first get off the plane. All the ground staff, the behaviors they have been taught, they engage with you, they smile, they make you feel welcome and valued. And then, of course, they've got this great digital signage with wayfinding and information. It's fantastic. But also they engage you with the structure of the building, but also the way they leverage digital signage throughout it. It's the one airport I find myself stopping in front of it and watching some of the videos because it goes between advertising promotions, but then also immersive experiences around the local culture. And then it clicked again because I was just through there about a month ago. What they've actually done is the same thing that the Apple Store has done. They focused on the environment, the tech, and the people and driving those behaviors. So it makes that positive feeling when you go there. Now, some of you are going, I thought you said you were going to talk about tech. So yes, we are going to talk about tech. I'm going to get 3 things across to you right now. Number 1, we have the tech to help transform your businesses. Number 2, I'm going to explain why we don't deliver more. And number 3, what needs to change. So let's kick it off with something that's been around a while, but I love and I think is underutilized, digital signage. And why do I love it? And I actually took some notes when I was going around Doha's airport last time. I got off the plane, I checked my flight status, I looked for wayfinding so I knew how long to go to the gate. There was some news going up there, but then I was looking at advertising and promotions. I found the restaurant, went there. I was looking at all the immersive experiences and on the local culture. That gave me those outcomes. I was relaxed. I happily went, had a meal, walked around the airport just to enjoy it. But also your customers, it's not just about me, your customers actually like this. 70% state that digital signage boosts the travel retail appeal. But that's just one side of it. I mentioned earlier, there's this thing called tariffs going around, which is really confusing people. But then you also have 30% of travelers state that high prices or the perception of high prices are the main reason for not purchasing airport retail. And I just thought about this. I'm like, why aren't they leveraging digital signage? It might be early, but if you're in an airport and you're in a positive situation where it's going to be good for you, help inform the customers or the travelers that are coming through that this is a good place to buy. Or if you're a retail brand and you know how what's cost in one airport versus yours, showcase that. It creates a perceived value where people go, actually, wait a minute. I don't know what the situation is, but at least here it's duty free. So it could actually help. It's just this messaging that pushes people along that way. Next, of course, we had to hit artificial intelligence. I'm sure everyone's a complete expert, so I won't cover it too much. AI is taking off in retail, as you would expect, and 50% of retailers increased spend last year. Only 57, that should be like 100. The top use cases are around personalization, inventory optimization, and customer service. But 80% say that AI will be a critical investment by this year. I still think it should be higher, but it is critical. So then I thought, well, what if we combine digital signage and AI? And this is what I like. There's a startup out of London I've been tracking for a while, and they're helping to transform the digital out-of-home advertising sector. I'll be honest, until 2 months ago, I didn't know what DOOH meant, so I had to Google it, but I talked to her and she explained what they're doing, and I'm fascinated by it. And it's this industry that's tradition meeting transformation. In the old days, we put up the billboards for 2 weeks. Now it's down by the minute. And it's fascinating how they're leveraging AI to do it. But what you have to do to get more people doing it is overcome these barriers, because there's high upfront costs. They need to make sure they can get an ROI. I may be in London, but I want to advertise in Berlin, Singapore, and LA. And I have headcount that has to support all that. And then I have to have people who can create engaging content. They actually sort out all those up front for you and manage it for you. And you're basically focusing on content. And I liked it because she was explaining how they're doing it. And it's real simple. They're leveraging data and multiple data sources, and not just your traditional ones that are going to be around football. They're pulling in interesting things in different areas to help you identify the audience, locations, times, and price. They're basically making sure you get the best price. They've got 1 million sites now globally. They've managed 20,000 plus campaigns. Yes, they are in Singapore as well. But what they do is they make this type of advertising accessible to everybody. The first thing you can do is when you go on their website, you can upload your image and they can show you how it'll look. You can set your budget. Now, what killed me was you can set your budget at $100. You can set it at $1,000. It's opening it up to everybody. You then select your target audience, then the locations you want, and you start pulling it out and giving you the best way to get the best price. And I thought when I heard about this, I asked her, why don't the big vendors in this space absolutely hate you? Because what you're doing is helping people get a better deal on this. And she's like, she thought that would be the case, but they like it because this small company has brought in 1,000 new first-time advertisers into the ecosystem. So I do like this one a lot. And here's the use case that really sold me on it. They were working with a health and beauty retailer in London that had 67 stores. And the sales, they were trying to drive sales during hay fever medication, or driving the sales of hay fever medication during the pollen season. And the requirement is they only want ads to show on the days with a high pollen count. So I said they use multiple data sources. They just added in a data source that tracked the pollen. So basically, the campaign was inactive for 7 days because there was no pollen count. Now, they didn't have to do anything. It just automatically didn't buy on those days. So they saved 18% of their budget. So I like the way you can leverage data to do this. But now let's take it a step further. What if we combine digital signage, AI, and espresso, and a robot for good measure? So I love espresso, and full disclosure, I'm an espresso snob. It starts with good espresso. And I think over the last 10 years, I've seen Ella at about 50 different events and different things. And if you came through Changi, you might have seen it. And Ella's just a robot that makes espresso. You don't have to have anybody there to do it, but they make good ones. But what I've been following with them is how they can use their digital signage as more of a marketing engagement opportunity. And a few months ago, I was back in Barcelona, and this was Ella at the EAND stat. EAND is the telecom operator from the Middle East. They're excellent at branding. They put this on their stand, and they really make the most of it because everybody goes there. Everybody does the thing. They order their coffee. They take a video, and they're pushing it out on social media, which means EAND is getting everybody promoting their stand, which drives traffic. I must have gone by it a dozen times during the event. And what happens? There's a queue every time, and everybody's using their cameras. But then a couple of weeks back, I went to Keukenhof. And if there's anybody from the Netherlands here, you'll know what this is. It's the world's biggest garden and flower festival during tulip season. And it's all influencers. I kid you not, it's just people walking around in costumes, taking photos. Partially drove me nuts. But what I loved was they used this because all the influencers were going there, taking pictures of the people, getting their coffee, pumping it on social media, and then suddenly they're getting all this free marketing out of it. But why am I talking about this? I was thinking about competition for dwell time, like the stat that was talked about earlier. And there's a number of different categories that you're competing against for duty-free retail. And I was shocked at how small this percentage was. But it's like, well, how do you actually start to pull people away from those other sections and bring it into your section? And then I thought, what's in that other thing? Like, so what do people do in other? Well, when you're at an airport, people get out their social media, they take a video and brag, haha, I'm going on holiday, you're not. So how do you combine that with the people who are going to get a coffee so they don't sit in that long queue and then get them into your store? And I just thought it'd be a really interesting thing. If you could do these in-store espressos, because you don't have to have a head count. No one has to stand there and do it. You can start combining those dwell time segments. You can buy your coffee, do your social media. You can capture customer data if you'd like, and then leverage that to communicate with them going forward. Cups for branding, signage for promos. You can charge for the coffee. At Kokenhof, they charged a ton for the coffee. So I couldn't believe it, but people were still paying for it. So you cover your cost and it's free social media. And what are people going to do when they come to the airport? I want to go to that place and take the same picture. So it's just an idea. Next one, Gen AI. How many people are using Gen AI in their everyday life? Okay, the rest of you, you should. It's fantastic. I absolutely love Gen AI. It's transformed the way that I work and everything that I do. But what I love about it is technology finally speaks our language. If you wanted to interact with things like this before, you had to learn how to write code. Now anybody can go in and put in a prompt and get a detailed answer back. And that's quite fascinating. It's quite different. But I think Gen AI is going to follow Amara's law. And what we're going to do is hype it up at first. We're going to overestimate what it's going to do in the short run. What I truly believe is you don't understand how this is going to fundamentally transform our businesses, our lives in the next few years. And I literally think this is the biggest thing since the internet, but it'll drive more transformation faster than the internet did. But I want to make sure you understand there's like a lot of different types of AI. You have the traditional AI, which is stuff really before Gen AI, and you've got Gen AI. So I want to explain to you what the differences are and what the goals are of these. So in traditional AI, it's more about automating tasks, driving efficiency. When you hear people talking about how AI is going to take away our jobs, it's when they're automating tasks. But Gen AI is more about empowering us to do more faster. Now, if you look at traditional AI, it learns this by following rules. You're trying to replicate the human decision-making process. Whereas Gen AI generates, generative, get the link there, new content from training data. So it allows you to create new things. The goal for traditional is automation. The goal for Gen AI is human-machine collaboration. And this human-machine collaboration is what is going to change our lives going forward. So some examples of this, really simple, and you'll all understand this. Your Netflix recommendations, that's Gen AI. Most basic chatbots you use where you go on the chatbot, my coffee machine's not working. Have you checked A, B, and C? That's basic traditional AI. But Gen AI is like having the world's best intern. Now imagine an intern where you don't have to deal with those pesky minimum wages or labor laws about how long they can work. It's available 24/7 and it never gets bored. But you can use it to do things like teach me about a topic. It'll design a whole course for you. Create an image of me dressed up as a sake bottle. I don't know. Help me troubleshoot why my espresso machine didn't work last week. What could it be? Summarize these documents into one paragraph. Rewrite this. It's a brilliant tool to allow you to do something you were going to do anyway, just much faster. But what you see that's really fascinating about this, McKinsey's been tracking the adoption of AI in enterprise customers over the last 7-8 years, and we've just hit 78%. Gen AI started last year or 2 years ago, 2023, and it's already up to 71%. And it's us, the consumers, that are driving this because the companies don't have a choice. People are using this in their everyday lives. They're bringing it into their work lives, so you have to start adopting it. And if you want to get like the world's simplest example, but I think it's still one of the best, Telstra, the Australian mobile operator, uses it to create a one-sentence customer overview. If you call in, if you talk to somebody at a store, hi, it's Charles. Here's one sentence that summarizes my entire relationship with Telstra. Think about the value you're giving back to them. Think about how quick you can actually communicate the conversation and know what they need, what they might need. Now, what can you do with that in travel retail? Well, think about customer service. I may have 13 minutes to go buy something. I don't want to go looking around to see if it's in stock. Do you have the latest PC so-and-so on in stock? Yes, it's here. Quickly, I can go find it. You could also, when you say here's where it is, do you also need a power bank to help charge it? Do you need an international power connector to get to it so you can use it in different countries? You might want to do it for product info. And I did this in Japan because I was looking at one of the really funky rice cookers there. And I'm like, will this work when I go back to the Netherlands? And it gave me the full answer right there. So people can do it and it's self-service. I don't have to go find someone, have them go look it up. Again, it's the same process. It's just done faster. Last week, I was going to see my goddaughter in Kuala Lumpur. She's 13. I have no clue what a 13-year-old would like. So I asked ChatGPT, what should I do for a 13-year-old? What can I do? So you can start leveraging these things. Think about how much language difficulties you have with people coming through. It does live translation and you can do staff training. It's a brilliant way to start making your business work more efficiently. And the way I like to look at it is, I went to school a long time ago and I studied finance and economics. I used to have to use this calculator on the left. It's an HP 12C. The manual is thicker than the calculator. It takes you, like, you have to go and look up the page, input all these different things to do a basic NPV IRR function. Suddenly Excel came out and all that time I spent learning that was like gone. But Excel made it so simple. Now that didn't mean the world didn't need bankers. It just allowed bankers to do things more efficiently or us as consumers to do things more efficiently. So it's about driving that. It's about doing the same process, but faster. Now the fun one. How many people have heard of Agentic AI? Okay, we're starting from a low bar. How many people are experts? Excellent, no one. So I can say whatever I want and you'll just buy it. Agentic is the next level of what's coming up. And they requested I talk about this. And it is really cool what's coming next. When you look at AI, it automates. When you look at Gen AI, it creates. When you look at Agentic, it acts. And the way I could explain it is, what if we used AI to help with dinner? Here's something simple. AI automates. So with AI, I could go onto Redmart, the local store here, say I want some Sasha's chicken. The recommendations are going to be, well, here's some other things from Sasha. Here's some other types of chicken. Basic stuff. Gen AI, I can go out there and say, I've got chicken, asparagus, and potatoes. I have a sous vide, and I've got an oven. What should I make for dinner? And it'll give you the whole plan. In case you were wondering, this is from last week. It was delicious, so I highly recommend it. Next one is Agentic. Now, Agentic acts, but what it does is it contextualizes things. So work with me on this one. I'm going to say, I want to make dinner. Agentic's going to go, well, what's the weather? Because I live in Holland now, which means there's a good chance it's going to be cold, gray, and depressing. But then there's days where it's sunny. On a cold day, I want a heartier dish and I want red wine. But if it's a nice, warm, sunny day, I want fish and a glass of white wine. So it's going to understand that. And then it's going to look at my calendar. It sees that I'm having a meeting in the business district until 6:30, 30 minutes to get home, 30 minutes to relax. Oh, and it notices people are coming over for dinner. So then it's going to go, okay, I know what I can do because I got to make dinner for 4. It's then going to look at what's in the fridge, order the missing ingredients, prepare the meal, select the wine pairing. It acts and does it all. Basically, it's action with context. Now, full disclaimer, in case you didn't pick it up, it's actually not going to prepare your meal. But I wanted you to understand the process of what Agentic AI will do. And to be perfectly honest with you, you can today go out there with this and say, go find me a recipe and order all the ingredients. And it can do that for you right now, which is absolutely brilliant. But don't use this. Don't go home and try to type this in and wait for the food to show up. It's not going to happen. You'll be very hungry. But what can it actually do? So I'm fascinated by tariffs in case you can't understand that right now. What if I just said, I want to keep travelers updated on how the tariffs are going to impact duty-free prices? Well, the first thing, I need data inputs. So I need live tariff data. I need real-time pricing from the store. I need flight data, footfall data. Then I need contextual messaging. Where are flights coming and going to? Are there certain product areas where it's perfumes? Is it going to be electronics? What time of day is it? What are the flight delays? And then I think, what are my delivery interfaces? I can push all that content out to digital signage, and I might stick a QR code so you can get more information or push notifications. And then you have a feedback loop, measure the engagement, learn what resonates. You don't need to understand this. Forget this. It's too complicated. It's a waste of time. But this is what the tech industry does. We'll walk you through it. Normally, I would just stick up a really huge chart and try to explain it, but this is what you need to understand. I want to keep them impacted. And let's say that Agentic AI, and I'm that orchestration engine. I would look and go, oh, there's a flight going to Australia. I'd go pull an image of Australia, Sydney Opera House, and put it up. And then I would go out and grab the tariff information, any updates that are going on, and I'd create a campaign. Flying to Australia, new import rules mean extra savings on single mounts. Then I would go, oh, wait a minute, there's some people from China who are going to be transiting and jumping on the same flight. So I might adjust the image and show Sydney's Chinatown image instead, and then translate it so they can actually see the same information. But then I might realize at the time of day, I'm like, oh, it's getting late in the day. Almost all the flights out of Changi are going to be overnight long haul flights. So I'd pull up an image of somebody sleeping on the plane and maybe offer something around hydrating skincare. So this is it. At the end of the day, it's then going to go back saying what worked. It'll look at your sales data and it'll revise them going forward. Now, this is what people are starting to do today. It is going to be able to transform the way you manage and operate and engage with your consumers going forward. Next one, now the hard part. So why aren't we doing it? Elephant in the room. This stuff isn't easy. They'll tell you it's easy. It's not. And we're not learning from our mistakes. Over the last 8 years, I've always included a slide about this, and it's always from McKinsey, BCG, or Bain. It's about what percentages of projects fail to achieve their goals. We're still at 88%. And a lot of that's because we have a people problem. We push the tech and we don't understand our user profiles, how people want to use this. We don't adapt their job profiles to leverage the technology. We don't create feedback loops, so we actually build it to specifically meet their needs, and we don't invest in user training. We just give them the tech and hope it works. This is why projects fail, and we're not learning on that. But with Gen AI, we're doing much better. Skip all the colorful dots and just look at the red box in the bottom, and I'll explain that. So this looks at companies that are doing Gen AI initiatives, and are they involving employees in it? And the ones in the red box are where they're not involving them. So what you can see is 90% of the people are being involved in this. We're starting to talk to our employees about how can you use this in your job. We're starting to realize they have valuable inputs. And what I love about it is Asia is doing much better than the US on this one. So which means we should be getting much more value out of it. Now, the industry though, unfortunately, we go back to the same thing with AI. And when they come and try to sell this stuff to you, they're going to do the same. Overhype, oversimplify, underdeliver. And this is your cheat slide. So I have a good friend who used to head up the region doing artificial intelligence and machine learning from a tech vendor that I'm pretty sure every one of you will be using. It's one of the biggest ones. And he says, these are the 3 things we never tell our customers. So now when they do come into you, cover these 3 things. Number 1, strategically, you think you have a business and use case, it's not properly defined, which means there's going to be more cost. Number 2, technically, your systems are not designed and you're not ready to implement AI. So that means we can do this for you, but by the way, we have to do this as well, and that costs money. On the financial side, they don't tell you about the high cost of data collection. They'll say, we can do this, it's easy. It is. It costs a lot of money. So this is your cheat slide. When they come in and try and sell you stuff, focus on those. But he is right. Retail has a data challenge. Only 67% of companies completely capture customer data. Only 39% clean that data, which get rid of the errors and mistakes. And only 42% harmonize it, meaning that they can actually use it across multiple systems. And that means that in total, only 17% of retailers have a complete single view of their customers and can start using it for a lot of these great new technologies, which is great for the 17%. For the 83, you got to get to work. Next thing, you've got a risk of negative customer perception. Some of you might remember the Google Glass. Amazing tech, bombed because it creeped everybody out. But AI has this problem where people get really nervous about it and it bothers them. There's a bunch of scandals over the last year in the press. Google's Gemini AI did a commercial where a father helped his daughter write a letter to some hero of theirs who's in the Olympics. Suddenly everybody goes nuts about that. So this is to writing. We don't like that. It's creepy. And then there was Coca-Cola's ads at Christmas that were AI generated, and people didn't like that because what does it mean for the industry? Then there's the unauthorized usage. There's certain rules for Facebook in Europe where I can opt out. In Australia, you can't. And there's this whole data privacy one. And this is about Darwin in Australia. They had a huge scandal around facial recognition. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute. But there's also risks about when good tech creates more risks. Now, this is this point in there where I always give a case study and show you how somebody really screwed something up. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go out to my Gen AI engine and I'm going to say, I need a few examples of chatbots behaving badly. And it came back and said, here's one. Uber Eats Japan in 2021, there was a racist chatbot responses where they sent out racially insensitive messages. Social media backlash, they had to issue a public apology. They shut down the chatbot so they could retrain it and make it work. And I'm like, this is perfect. But I haven't heard of it before. And normally I would have heard of this. So I put a follow-up question. Can you give me more information about the Uber Eats example? I don't remember it. It said, I apologize for the confusion earlier. Upon further investigation, there doesn't appear to be a documented incident involving Uber Eats Japan's chatbot providing racially insensitive responses. So this is a hallucination. Now, this is scary because I loved that. I was about to create the slide. I would have come up here and basically accused Uber Eats of being racially insensitive. That would ruin my credibility when you found out it didn't happen. That would ruin my brand. That would potentially make me up for a libel suit from Uber. But I'm a small guy. I'm like one-man company. What if that happened to your chatbot? This is what can happen. There's plenty of documented instances where it hallucinates, creates things, and it really damages the brand value. So we have to be careful with this. So what needs to change? We need more collaboration. And I mean collaboration everywhere. We think technology is simple. Any solution you're going to do is going to have multiple products from multiple vendors, plus your internal teams. But you can't just leave it to your technology folks. You got to get everybody involved because it impacts your workers, your operations. So we need more people getting involved in technology. We can't just leave it to them. And in the airport, if you want to deliver human outcomes, it starts at check-in, security, before you get to the dwell time and then the boarding. We need this seamless experience and less painful. And we can leverage technology to do your automated check-ins and automated bag drops, automated security, and then it gets you there faster, more time to spend money. It makes you feel valued, informed, and engaged. Another thing you can do is engage the ecosystem. So this is an example of something Singapore did with IMDA and Enterprise Singapore. They wanted to help SMEs basically learn how to use Gen AI. So they created a sandbox, which is a safe area where they can go out and test this and work with different people. Now, I'm showing you this because these things are all over. I have a number of examples of them doing it across the Middle East. There's ones in Korea. Go out and find them. Don't try to do it all yourself. Engage the ecosystem, learn from what they've already done, and apply it to your business. And I wanted to come back to Darwin because I was fascinated by this story. All they were doing was putting up security cameras to investigate and prevent crime and track vehicle and pedestrian traffic. Now, for the last 25 years, I've lived in London and Singapore. I've been on camera every day, everything I do. I just think it's normal. But in Australia, they freaked out. It became front page news. People were upset. So they had to pull it for a while. And what they did is they engaged with IMDA. Because IMDA actually has this artificial intelligence framework that you can use to ensure that you're ethically using AI. So they put in the structure, they did the citizen engagement programs, and they ensured full transparency. So they put this out where any citizen at any time can look and see what's happening to my data, how is it being used, and how is it being disposed of. And now they're getting the value out of it. Final one, you have to be prepared. Before we were worried about these guys sitting in little dark corners, the hackers. Now we have to be worrying about Gen AI and what it can do. 50% of people or retailers are concerned about bias. So could be racial. It could be as a man versus female. 38% are concerned about hallucinations and 35% are concerned about toxicity. These are massive brand risks. Really focus on security and how you're going to manage your data. And the good news is people realize that. 88% of the executives they surveyed said that human oversight is essential to reduce human risks. Now, this is great because it's about the ethical use of AI. And if it's going to impact a human, it does need human oversight. So in closing, I may have given you a lot of things that will scare you about how hard it's going to be, but it's possible and the opportunities are endless because technology will transform the way they work, live, and play. As long as we remember it's about the people and that technology exists to deliver human outcomes.